gonna be alright.
Innocent life.
It's gonna be alright, be alright, be alright, be alright. Well, I've got a feeling everything's gonna be alright. Oh, I've got a feeling everything's gonna be alright. I've got a feeling everything's gonna be alright. Be alright, be alright, be alright.
Wow. You know how lucky we are to have them in the same room? Man. Just when you thought there was only one musical genius in this congregation, there became another, and then we have a visiting one that's fantastic too. It's amazing, amazing, amazing. Did you hear that? Shh. Listen real close. Did you hear that? Wait, I just heard it again. Did someone call my name? Here I am. Here I am. You want me to take off my shoes? All right. I'll take off my shoes. Wait, is God talking to me? Well, then I'm going to need to sit down. I'm not just going to take off my shoes. God. God is calling my name. The God, capital T, God. Wow. Well, I'm not sure I can even bear to look. If I could plug my ears and cover my face at the same time, I might just go on and do both. Now, you want me to do what? Really? Can you hear any of this? No, of course not. Of course not. So I'm the one who's going to tell them? Me? The one who has trouble speaking up? I'm acting here. Hang with me. You want me when I could recommend 3, 4, 5 better people I think could do this job? You want me, really? But who am I? Who am I to speak on such things? Where is my authority to be able to speak to pharaohs and Levites and kings? Who am I to speak to the powerful? Are you sure I'm the right person for this job? Just exactly what am I supposed to say to these people and to my family? You know, telling people that I heard a voice tell me to do something is not usually a good idea. And I'm not sure that a burning bush story in this crowd is going to give me any more credibility. So let me just make sure that I understand exactly what you want me to do. I'm going to go and place myself in the middle of those who could annihilate me or enslave me and tell them that God has sent me on this mission. Wow. Well, I'm not sure if you understand your reputation around here. There are a lot of people who do some crazy things in the names of gods. And there are a lot of gods in these parts that tell people to do some pretty terrible things. Okay. So I'm supposed to tell you that Eye Asher Eye sent me. That I am what I am. I will be what I will be. I'm not getting out of this, am I? So if I leave here, leave what I know, change course, go to the people and tell them that I am has sent me. I am is enough? And you want me to go to the elders, the wisest of the people, and tell them first? Well, I guess if they believe me, then I can convince pretty much anyone, because they're a pretty tough crowd. So what if we were called, all of us, to deliver a message to the people? A message that cannot be separated from who we are. A message that is crafted from the details of our experience, our successes and our failures, our ideas and our feelings. What if you are holding a vital piece of information that the world needs in order to change or grow or heal? What if not using your gifts, not sharing your learnings, actually holds us all back? Now, before Moses took God up on this particular mission, he started with, "Here I am. Here I am." Firmly planted, aware of who he was. Here I am. I have this friend who today is quite confident, and she's an accomplished professional, actually, but you would not have believed that this was even possible if you knew her into her 20s. You see, she was taught very early on in her life that the more that she disappeared and the quieter that she was, the more that she just went along, staying out of conflict and out of the way, the better person she was. See, good girls don't ruffle feathers, she was told. Good girls weren't in the way, didn't draw attention to themselves. She was rewarded for her silence and for stuffing her feelings. So she confused goodness with diminishing her own worth and value. It was a terrible situation. This confusion actually led her to addiction in order to help cope with having to silence her own needs and wants, to silence who she was. She numbed herself from her life because she believed there was no place for her in this world. No place for her experience, her thoughts, her wishes, or her dreams. There was a time when she was actually living in Chicago in her 20s, and she told me this story that I just cannot shake. See, she needed the bus system to get around in Chicago, and she would be commuting from one part of the city to the other, which actually takes a while, and sometimes several buses. She would head to the bus stop, and sometimes there'd be several buses in a row. It's not easy to know what bus is yours necessarily. But if the buses were already there when she arrived, and she couldn't easily see from the front what the number and the destination was, if it wasn't clearly marked for her or visible for her to see, she would just get on the bus because it was there. And because she didn't want the bus driver or anyone else to think that she didn't know where she was going, she would just climb on the bus, and if it was the wrong bus, she would just ride the entire route until she could get off where she began and start all over again. Frustrated and angry and sad and silent. This was, of course, not an efficient way for her to get where she was going. Sometimes she'd get lucky and she would end up on the right bus anyway. A lot of the time, though, she would end up on the wrong bus, unclear about where she was going and unwilling to bother anyone, even the bus driver whose job it was to tell her. It was as though she didn't even feel worthy enough to ask the question. She was stuck. That same stuck feeling sometimes comes up in couples that I work with, where couples don't name how they're feeling and thinking because they're in this crazy pattern, this stuck cycle where there's anger and then one person just shuts down and gets quiet. You know what I'm talking about? You know anybody like that? That's not my daughter. She's talking just fine. But do you know what I'm talking about? When one of the persons in the couple just gets quiet. And then things are at a standstill. Either they forget about it and never talk about it again, or it's the same argument that's been going on for year after year, and so they just numb out. Now, my friend told me that today, she said, this was a period in my life when all anyone could really say about me was that I was nice. Nice has its value. Don't get me wrong, I like nice people. Sometimes I like nice people better than smart people. But when nice is not supported by integrity or substance or a perspective, it feels empty. When nice is ungrounded, it eventually will implode. It will ooze out All those emotions that haven't been handled or expressed ooze out of that niceness. Do you know what I'm talking about? Maybe you know somebody like this, someone whose words are really nice. If there were a transcript of everything that they were saying to you, it would look really fine. But the tone and inflection and expressions carry this unspoken emotion, sometimes anger behind it. Do you know what I mean? Well, often in our culture, the default assumption is that silence suggests agreement. I'm here to tell you that silence does not mean agreement. If we don't have a means to be able to get the information we need or a place to be able to talk about what is on our hearts and minds, we are in trouble, and we too might implode. So we need an appropriate time and place to be able to talk these things out. Obviously, you're not going to go to your boss and say, I really think that you're a jerk, right? But if you're talking about specific behaviors, it would probably be a good thing for you to have someone else to talk to as practice for you to have a healthy conversation with your boss about the kinds of behaviors that might need to be talked about, right? Does that make sense? So, gossip, not so good. Talking to somebody else as practice for being able to not be silenced by them anymore, probably a good conversation to have. So if we don't speak up about where it is that we want to go, we might actually be on the wrong bus, riding along, when we feel called to be going in a completely different direction. But before we speak up, we must know first who we are, what our motivations are. Here I am, says Moses. This is what I think. This is what I feel. This is what my experience has taught me. It reminds me of this poem by Marianne Williamson that you may have heard before, and if you haven't, I find it just absolutely moving. It is our light, not our darkness, that most frightens us. Our deepest fear is not that we are inadequate. Our deepest fear is that we are powerful beyond all measure. It is our light, not our darkness, that most frightens us. We ask ourselves, who am I to be brilliant, gorgeous, talented, and fabulous? Actually, who are you not to be? You are a child of God. Your playing small does not serve the world. There is nothing enlightened about shrinking so that other people won't feel insecure around you. We were born to make manifest the glory of God that is within us, she says. It's not just in some of us, it's in everyone. And as we let our own light shine, we unconsciously give other people permission to do the same. As we are liberated from our own fear, our presence automatically liberates others. So how do we know when it is God calling us to do something, to be something, to speak up, to move to a new place, to take a different job, to make an important decision or a commitment? How do we know that it's God's voice? Last week, Marlon talked about when not to listen to God. He talked about the Abraham and Isaac story, and he suggested that Abraham made two very central mistakes. The first was that Abraham claimed to know with certainty the will of God. Marlon says, which he points out very truly, that no one can know for certain the will of God. And so we must come to any call or push or pull with humility, with discernment, with curiosity, not from a place of certainty. The other mistake that Abraham made in the Abraham and Isaac story was that he believed that he could be religious alone, that he could follow God's voice and not have a conversation about it with anyone else. Abraham didn't check out his own story with Sarai or anyone else for that matter. He acted without any consultation from those he trusted to discern with him. So how do we know that it's God's voice? When we greet the idea with curiosity and humility, when we can be entirely transparent about the question to those we respect and love, We can know it's God's claim on our lives when we have weighed the pros and cons, reflected on how this decision is integrated into the story of our own life and how it affects others. We've spoken to those whom we consider to be wise, who can hold our conversation. And then we realize that we cannot make a different decision. I did this when I left teaching for the ministry, a job that I deeply loved. I was a good teacher. I loved my students. I was safe, and I could have been secure there well into retirement. I'd reached the peak of that position. I was trained as a trainer of other teachers in my field, and yet I also knew that I wasn't using all my gifts. Sometimes our call, if it's not coming that way, and a realization also comes from misfortune, like losing a job or a relationship. Sometimes we lose something that's been at the center of our life for so long that we can be freed to remember, to discern what we might have always wanted but may have forgotten. I've ministered to many as they took the loss of a job as an opportunity to become a writer or open a restaurant or to go back to school. My own discernment was 3 years long. I talked about it with other people that I loved. I wanted to be sure that I wasn't running away from something, that the call had laid a claim on my life that was an approach to something bigger and not an excuse to run away from something else. I heard that call again and again. In my house, we call that the holy 2x4. Until I could not ignore it any longer. And Deborah is modeling that for us. In her decision to leave All Souls for her new call on her life, pushing her to be more and more of herself in her own ministry, pushing her to use more of her own gifts to serve. She's responding after her own deep discernment, "Here I am." Now, I know that there are some of you here today who are planners, like myself, who cannot imagine getting on a bus, like my friend, who are careful planners, who wouldn't get on a bus without a highlighted route map, careful discernment of arrival and departure times, who would ask for directions, check again with the bus driver, check again with the person who you're sitting next to, and even ask for advice from those on the bus about a better and better way to arrive at your destination in a shorter period of time. I love y'all too. And if you can't relate to my friend who got on that bus, not sure where she was going, maybe you can see how we get befuddled in our own call. We can get in the wrong space. If you think about maybe a relationship in your life. Now, maybe it was a long time ago, but I want you to think about that relationship in your life that you got into or stayed in, blinded by maybe what at the time you called love. But you know the one I'm talking about, the one where you saw so many red flags along the way. Lots of red flags. And you just kept ignoring them. Oh, that's not red, it's pink. Oh, that's not red, it's kind of off-white. It's okay. I mean, does there have to be a burning bush to get your attention? Maybe your best friend didn't like the way that she talked to you. Maybe you hesitated introducing him to your family. You felt like your entire identity maybe was lost in this relationship. You didn't know where you were anymore. The boundaries between where you ended and the other person began were fuzzy. You've had one of those? Oh, come on now. You've had one of those? Uh-huh. We've silenced ourselves in the past, is my point, right? When we knew better. Hidden important feelings, silenced our own voice, even maybe fooled ourselves. Made the mistakes that Abraham made before us. Ignoring ourselves and trying to go at it alone. So when someone is silent among us, we have a responsibility. We have a responsibility, if we're the silent one, to work on speaking up more, speaking out more. We have a responsibility to try and speak that truth in love. And if we're the one speaking and there is a silent one among us, we need to take the time to seek their truth about their silence, because it may not be agreement. It may be something completely different. So my sermon today is about claiming your power, that inherent value given to all of us, granted to us by our Creator. Check to see that the bus is going in the direction that you want to go. And if you're the one in power already, if you're the most powerful one in the room, the message this morning for you is to claim your power. And I mean claim your power, not someone else's. Don't assume that that silence is agreement. You may be missing a valuable perspective or a piece of information that only they can provide, that you need in order to be successful. For whatever you did not for the least of these, you did not do for me. So if you're the bus driver, it is also your responsibility to make sure that the people on the bus want to go where you're going. Good buses, in Paris, when you go to the metro, if you could understand what they were saying, it kind of sounds like this. All right, that's not helping you. So you get on the metro, and they'll tell you 25 times that you're on the. If you don't have that map memorized, you're not going anywhere you want to go, right? But as the bus driver, when you've got a person right there within earshot, it would probably be a good idea for you to continually repeat the destination and the stops, right? Now, that doesn't mean that you have to change your route to deliver them all to their individual houses, right? Stay on your path. But I want to give you a task this morning, a behavior, kind of a starting place for raising your awareness about what it means to claim your own power. It's the same, actually, for those who've been getting on the wrong bus as it is for those who've been driving the bus. Claiming your power begins with looking yourself in the eye. To know thyself, to thine own self be true, we are told, right? So every morning you're going to pick up your toothbrush, and instead of looking at your teeth, I want you to look at yourself in the eye. Claim your own power. See that spark of holiness, that inherent value. Look for it and recognize it and honor it so that you can meet another person's gaze in this world with confidence. Start by meeting your own gaze. Claim it. Let your power be guided by love and in relationship. And if you're the one in power, the morning question in front of the mirror is one of integrity. Claim your power. Look yourself in the eye and ask, are you claiming more than your own power? How can you help to increase someone else's power who is in the conversation? And claim only yours. Because after he said, "Here I am," and heard what that job was for him to do, Moses took the staff and led the people through the wilderness. That stuttering man with slow speech took everyone to the promised land. Amen.